Hello and welcome to Give Me the Remote podcast. It's episode 42 and it is the 10th of June. I'm joined in the pod as usual by John.
Hello.
And also special guest Tricia.
Hi.
Who's going to review our second show with us, and we'll just jump in on shows she hasn't seen.
Sounds great.
That's kind of review. So we're going to start off this week with Chernobyl.
All of the good we did. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that to them, justice was done. See, a just world is a sane world. There was nothing sane about Chernobyl.
Yes.
It's just designed to keep HBO subscribers signed on for an extra couple of weeks.
I gotta say,
after
the timing of this release was brilliant by HBO because it's got a whole bunch of Game of Thrones actors showing what they can do with really top flight writing.
Which they didn't get in the last season of Game of Thrones.
I was not expecting this to be this good, and I think this is partly it's the expectations game why its reviews on IMDb are so high. I think it's the highest rated TV show of all time at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is possibly not fair.
Possibly. I think this is very good television. It's a 5-part miniseries about the Chernobyl nuclear power plant meltdown. It's a little bit strange that everyone in it has an English accent.
Look, we've argued about this on Death of Stalin.
Well, so actually, apparently the director initially wanted them to have not a Russian accent because he said that, and these are his words, so no Russian people email me, that Russian accents get quite comical quite quickly. So he started them off with a nondescript Eastern European accent and just decided really, really quickly into the script readings that it wasn't working. And he said the actors were acting to the accent, and so he wanted to take it away so they were acting to the character.
Yeah, look, I thought it was actually good with Death of Stalin how they were using English regional accents to denote class and education.
They weren't doing that in this, though.
I think to some extent they were.
I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me an example of it.
Well, the rougher accents were coming from rougher people.
The actors were just doing their English accents because everyone in it was an English
actor.
Well,
they were cast to those parts, weren't they?
Well, they actually decided they didn't want any American actor in it because it would be too inflammatory to have an American accent.
Well, it's still plenty inflammatory because the Russians are furious about this thing.
I agree. And there is some justification for them to be furious.
There are, I think. My read on watching it, though, wasn't that this is, oh, look at these stupid Russians, they're so stupid, they had this disaster. It's, this could happen anywhere. This callousness, this wishful thinking on the part of upper management, or the wishful thinking on the part of political leadership, which then cascades down through a million little errors by a million people who don't make the best decision. They make the decision that's the most acceptable to those above who had no knowledge or understanding of how these things would flow down, and that builds to catastrophe.
I think that is true, but there are a couple of characters, like the head of the Chernobyl power plant. It's the on-shift manager at the time, played by Paul Ritter. He's like basically just an evil dude. It's like a stereotypical like evil style.
But
Russian...
by all accounts, he was a horrible dude, and he deliberately overrode the advice of people saying we should not do this, and it led to this horrible disaster. Yeah. I think that's well earned.
But there's some really awesome acting. Jared Harris, who actually is one of my most favourite TV actors. He played Lane in Mad Men, and also plays King George VI in The Crown. So it's two of my favourite shows. He plays someone who's brought in as...
Legasov.
Yeah, Legasov. I'm going to butcher these Russian names.
Yeah, I've been avoiding them.
He plays someone who's come in to clean up. He's based on a real person.
But he looks the spitting image in this of Legasov. You go look up Legasov on Wikipedia,
Well, they do a good thing at the end where they do show you the real people.
Yeah, but in that particular case, I mean, the others were all pretty good, but that one, spitting image.
And Stellan Skarsgård, who has to be like the most ageless actor. He starred in The Hunt for Red October, for God's sakes. The guy's nearly 70.
Sean Connery's still alive, huh?
Yeah, but he doesn't look
So
like
is Harrison
this.
Ford. I mean,
This guy
everyone's,
looks like he's just a 50-year-old. Anyway, he plays Boris. How would we say it? Sherbina.
Shabina.
Anyway, and they have basically these guys have the greatest bromance that's existed for quite some time on TV.
It ends up being almost this buddy film, but they start in extreme conflict.
Yeah, that's what makes it such an awesome bromance.
And the way that resolves is great television and viewing. And for something so dark, and they show the darkness well, and the terror of dealing with radiation when you don't know how to deal with radiation or what to do, and you don't have the equipment. Is well depicted in this. I mean,
it's a weird series because it's actually like disaster film, political drama, a little bit horror. It's a bunch of genres kind of rolled into one. Some sentimental moments in there with the people of Pripyat, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Pripyat, which is the town near Chernobyl. That a lot of people died from radiation there, and they were not evacuated.
I'm sorry,
soon
Sheridan. I read an article by a spokesperson for the American atomic energy industry just yesterday, and he says not one child can be confirmed to have died as a result of Chernobyl.
Really?
He's lying.
But he's American.
Yeah.
Why would he have a vested interest?
Because they've got a vested interest in the atomic energy industry.
Yeah, right.
So the lies are flowing thick and fast from everyone associated with the nuclear industry, even now. It's astonishing. I mean, if any outlet was going to run the voice of the oligarchy, it'd be Forbes. But it was quite a piece of work.
Yeah, right. Interestingly, this show was written by a guy called Craig Mazin, and let me list some of his credentials. The Hangover Part 2 and 3.
Yeah, right.
So not number 1.
Hey, look,
Charlie's Angels.
Dude's got to eat, Charlie's Angels was well written.
Scary Movie 3 and 4.
Yeah, okay. You're putting your best Judith Lucy voice in there, aren't you?
All I can say is, this is very well written, given what this guy's written.
It is near Shakespearean in the quality
really
of the
good.
writing.
It is written based on a book called Voices from Chernobyl, so I'm sure there was a rich sort of starting material.
Now there is an issue, and this is where the bastards from the atomic energy industry start sliding their sharp little knives of doubt in. Some stuff in this is made up, which is almost disappointing because I kind of get how they made stuff up to make good television.
That is true, yes. That is the problem with it.
They didn't have to.
They do, the one thing they do make up, which I think is actually really, really clever, and they say it at the end, and I think it's not a spoiler to say it. But Emily Watson, who's an amazing actress, plays a nuclear physicist.
It's actor these days, I believe, isn't it?
Oh, you keep pulling me up on that, and I have to say you're correct. I didn't think it was possible for you to be more feminist than me, but you do keep getting me there. She plays a nuclear physicist, and during the show I kept saying, there is absolutely no way this character exists. 1, she's a woman. She couldn't have that much power in Soviet Russia. But 2, she sees too much stuff. She's involved in too many places. And so I sort of let it go because, she's a good actor and you kind of need it.
I would say more women had more power in Soviet Russia than in the West.
You are probably, I will agree with that. But anyway, at the end, they basically reveal that in order to get the narrative to basically work, they amalgamated the whole the nuclear scientific team into one character. And I actually think it worked really well. And saying it at the end was, I think, really responsible TV making. It
was, but at the same time, I just wish they hadn't given the bastards that opportunity to start casting doubt on it. And similarly, there's a beautiful scene involving getting Russian coal miners to dig out the space under the reactor pile, which that did happen, but then it turned out it wasn't necessary, and they never mined it out naked, because there's been interviews with the world is suddenly interested in these coal miners. So the coal miners are loving the attention, but And again, it's like, well, why did they make that bit up? You know, because it does allow for the importance of the message. Because I would say there's a huge parallel between the way the political class in Russia handled Chernobyl, the way that's depicted here, with what's happening with climate change now, where wealthy interests are squelching positive dealing with the situation.
I mean, one of the things I was disappointed in, because one of the things I quite liked about it was during the entire ordeal, the way that they actually get the Russian people to help is not through giving them, you know, pay bonuses and material rewards, although they do get that, but they appeal to their sense of community, which is, of course, you know, it's what socialism's about, and that was actually quite a nice message. But then in the very last episode, it does become a little bit anti-socialism, I think. It draws too many parallels about how socialism was the cause of this problem.
Yeah, I see. I up until that bit where the trial at the end, I could see every large organisation in Western society behaving in quite similar ways. This is just how large organisations respond.
But those coal miners came in and...
Yeah, but I mean, but that's always the way, isn't it? It's the little guys who get asked, "Are you willing to go and do something suicidally dangerous to make right the horrible misjudgments of those above?" And that's always the way. Be it soldiers having to go and fight the wars, or volunteer bushfighters having to go and deal with mismanaged forests.
I know, but there comes this point at the end where they kind of basically say the reason it happened was because Russia was only using cheap materials in their Soviet Union. Sorry, was only using cheap materials in the plant to save money, and that's what happens all over the Soviet Union. But I mean, that happens all over capitalist societies.
Oh, you want to see corners cut? Yeah. Try a.
And so I thought that was a bit unfair.
Yeah. I can sort of get. I think the Russians who are getting upset about this aren't realizing how flawed our own Western society is, and that to a Westerner watching it, we're just seeing parallels to our own flaws. We're not saying, "Oh, the Russians are stupid and dumb." Well, maybe some people are, but that's not what I took from it.
I didn't take that from it, no.
Yeah.
All right, so what are you giving it?
I can't give it less than 5 stars.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 5
stars. Despite some reservations. I wish they had stuck truer to the reality. I think it still would have been a compelling story.
What's next?
Hi. I'm here to talk about Good Omens.
Armageddon's days away, and we've lost the Antichrist.
We have to work together.
Good Omens, based on the book by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, which was written 30 years ago, which is going to come to my problems with Good Omens. But so Sheridan hasn't watched it. She'll just be chiming in with
actually, that's not true. I started watching it and I just didn't like it.
Yeah. So Tricia, why don't you start with telling us what you think about Good Omens, and then I'll get in on this.
I really loved it, and I loved it because I love Terry Pratchett, and I've really loved everything he's written. Mm-hmm.
So you thought Neil Gaiman was what's this dude doing his name on Terry's book?
He's I know he's written other things. I've not read them.
You haven't?
I really don't know much about him. I know he's another guy on Terry Pratchett's book. Yeah, I don't really know much else.
Okay. Because Sheridan and I have not met Neil Gaiman, but Sheridan has babysit Neil Gaiman's son.
I have.
And I have had Neil Gaiman's wife in my house at a party, albeit briefly. So we don't know Neil personally, but, you know, we're kind of close.
So you care a lot more about him than I do.
I've read all of his books, and I would say that everything Neil does is almost impossible to commit to screen, which is odd because he has done quite a lot of television work as a television writer, and the stuff he does as a television writer is very good. One of the very best Doctor Who episodes of all time, in my view. The Doctor's Wife was Neil Gaiman script. But his books and what's the one?
American Gods.
American Gods.
I mean, that's the only my experience with him.
I love the book American Gods. The first season was borderline a train wreck, and the second season just a train wreck. And Good Omens is a play on the Omen movies, which again is a very dated reference.
I didn't actually see that as well. I mean, I really know about Terry Pratchett's world.
Yeah.
I came from a place that was quite small and cloistered and religious. So seeing someone, take the piss about God or religion was really revolutionary. And humor in that space was very interesting. And so I fell in love with that author. And this book really stayed true to that.
Have you read the book, John?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you both...
But this series was really good because it fit that book very well. I think it was well interpreted.
How do you think, though, someone who hasn't seen the books...
I haven't read the book.
Yeah,
hasn't read the book.
I've seen the books.
Yeah. How do you think someone who read the book...
who hasn't read the book would enjoy the...
That's what I meant to say. Would enjoy the show. Because I've often thought with Terry Pratchett stuff that's been adapted by the BBC... It always falls into a trap where the narrator ends up having to deliver the best gags.
They do. And
the narrator tends to be pretty deadpan. And this is Frances McDormand playing the narrator. But even then, she's still playing it pretty deadpan. And when she delivers a great gag, I'm like, yeah, I remember that gag from when I read the book. But I'm just not sure how great that is for someone who hasn't read the book.
I will say Terry Pratchett has grown on me. It's not something when I came to, I felt like I really loved it at first.
Mm-hmm.
It's more when I digested it. How old were you when you read
the first one, sorry?
Less than 20.
Okay.
Yeah, like an older teenager. And I really didn't get a lot of it. I got some of it. Mm-hmm. And later it was like, I went back to an old friend and I went, oh yeah, I get that. And that's really funny. And so I don't know, I really enjoy, I guess maybe I enjoy seeing these come to screen because of that connection.
Yeah.
And I do understand maybe everyone isn't getting all of it. I watched it with my children, and I kept pausing it and saying, oh, this is actually related to a historical reference of, when this leader did that. And, or this is based on the religious understanding that God would drown everyone. And so that's the Noah story. Because they were more secular families, so they didn't really understand a lot of that. So I guess that because I come to it from a secular place, those children didn't really understand much of the biblical joke.
Okay.
And also the historical joke.
Yeah. And I'm guessing your kids, have they seen the Omen movies? Because I would imagine at this point the Omen movies are just some bad movies from long ago.
Yeah.
So hang on, what's the Omen movies got to do with... Terry Pratchett do them?
No. The when the book was published in 1990, so probably written in 1988.
Yeah.
The Omen movies were much more current, and this was in many ways a satirical reworking of the Omen movies. So
I didn't know that.
Hang on a second. And if you can totally enjoy this without thinking about the Omen movies. But if you do think about the Omen movies, there's a lot of subversion of that. Like the dog is straight out of the hellhound of the Omen movies. But again, I'm talking about. I mean, the Omen movies were made mostly in the 70s, maybe some early 80s for the Omen 3.
Is this on what service is it on?
This was on
Amazon Prime,
which I wasn't a member of, but I chose to. Join because of this. So
that's how Jeffy B sucks you in.
They find your niche and then they drag you along.
And then soon you can just order whatever you want to your house for free.
I'm trying really hard to avoid that.
Really? It's so good. I love it so much.
It just seems a little too convenient.
Yeah.
I'll just end up having everything coming every day that I don't actually need. I do want to talk about the actors that played.
It was astonishing, the cast.
Yeah, the cast was really impressive to me. David Tennant played Crowley, who was the demon.
Did you think David Tennant played Crowley, or do you think David Tennant just played Doctor Who?
I felt that there was a clear distinction. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan.
But there's always been a touch of the Rebel Angel to the Doctor.
The 10th Doctor was very much a lot of swagger. And I felt that there was some connection to that character. But I can also say that the Doctor had moral ambiguity, as where this demon Crowley is kind of really happy, just comfortable. I don't think he needed to change the world. I think he didn't want the world to end.
See,
So-
I think Crowley had huge moral ambiguity in that he was a demon and he was theoretically one of the Legion of Darkness, but at the same time one of the plays on this book when it was written was written in the Cold War. The Cold War was still going when it was written. It was published just as it was ending. The idea that the agents on the front line, so there's a touch of Le Carre in here as well. The agents on the front line end up having far more in common with each other than they do with their the places they've come from, and that's a huge part of the play between Azrael and Crowley,
who's played by Michael Sheen, who's also an amazing actor.
Who also looked like Doctor Who in many ways
did.
through this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot to be said about that relationship is what makes this book really important to me. I feel like it's really funny the way they are so different and the way they have different, business models. And yet they're together and they're probably the only people who really understand what it's like to live on Earth among all of these humans. So I really love that part. I love their relationship. It's very tender. And an angel and a devil obviously have all this time together from the beginning. So the beginning of the series starts with Adam and Eve.
Yep, Garden of Eden.
Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. And they're very new to each other. And over the 6,000 or so years that it takes to get to the apocalypse or modern day, you can see their relationship grow and change. And in the middle, they come to an accord with their understanding of how they're going to do their jobs, representing heaven and hell on earth, and what that means to them. Are you a good guy? Are you a bad guy? What does that mean? What does that look in this grand, ineffable plan?
But we also they get to a point of compromise where one of them wants to take the weekend off and the other one's performing, the devil's performing miracles and the angel's performing whatever the opposite of a miracle is. That eludes me at this moment. But they're covering for
curses.
Curses. They're covering for each other in ways that would be totally unacceptable to those above, except that it turns out that those above have also got back channels and deals with each other. And I guess part of the message is that all of these things are actually rackets. But
yes, I love that. I love John Hamm, who's from Mad Men, was the angel Gabriel, and he played a really great, couldn't give a shit kind of guy. He's very head of the corporation of heaven and very pro just doing the job and very unconcerned with humanity. And when Aziraphale comes to him with all of these concerns, he just ignores him and moves on about his life. And it's really, I think that was a good pick for that role. And I think that it was really clear between those two characters how distant the heavens and hell are from humanity, and how humans are seen as, weird ants in an ant farm somewhere in the corner of God's dusty cabinet. I did want to mention I really liked the score. I liked the soundtrack. I listened to that on Spotify.
Okay, because it was a lot of Queen.
It's a lot of Queen.
Oh, really?
Which was much edgier 30 years ago than it is today.
Although with the...
But apparently they nearly had the rights to the Queen music pulled when they were producing
Bohemian
this.
Rhapsody.
And then there was some delays with productions, and then Queen came back and said, "Look, we're happy with the way Bohemian Rhapsody went. You can use it."
Yeah, right.
Well, Terry Pratchett has written, these authors have written many lyrics from many pop songs into a number of the books, such that when you're reading along, you kind of hear lyrics in the background of the story, and then you would kind of imagine that. So for them not to present that in this, I think would be missing something. There's also a quote from Terry Pratchett about all tapes left in a car for more than about a fortnight metamorphosize into the best of Queen albums. And so there's a really cool scene where Crowley, the demon, is reaching around in the car and just kind of digging for a tape. He pulls up an audio cassette. He looks, it's the best of Queen. He pops it in, and then it's obviously referring to that quote that wasn't actually in the book, but was just something that these two authors had between them. But there were also AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Stevie Wonder, Amy Winehouse.
And Amy Winehouse is a much newer edition.
Right. I added her to modern, postmodern jukebox, modern day rock and kind of the balance between good and light and up pop songs and more like metal and sympathy for the devil kind of music was important to bringing this book to life.
Cool. Now, what did your daughters, your children, think of this?
I think they thought it was something Mom wanted them to watch.
Sure. And I'll follow that up with the next question of, would you recommend someone who hasn't read the book
Yes.
watch this in isolation, or would you say read the book first?
Oh, I would say read the book first, but I would say if you didn't, that's okay too. The kids are watching it again right now while I'm here.
Okay.
Because although at first when they started...
At least they won't have you pausing on them.
Well, and they don't have to have my commentary, which is why I'm here. I can share that with everyone else and they can have me out of their hair. But they enjoy it a lot. The characters have become dear to them, and they understand a lot more about, this is, it's very different to see the world as a omniscient being or angels or demons than it is. And the way that the book is written, everything resolves itself in a rather benign and comfortable way. Nobody is really miserably, horribly tormented. Evil and good I don't want to spoil it, but I guess maybe it's very clever how it comes to an end. And the kids really connected to that. Like, okay. Yes, there is an end to the world, and yes, there is a son of Satan and God and all of this and the war to end all wars.
What did you think, I've got to ask, about the way when Adam really starts to go off the metaphysical hook and he removes his friends' mouths?
That was confrontational.
And the friends decided to hang around when he freed them from his will. Because I saw that scene and thought, those kids should just run a million miles after something like that happened. Yeah,
but there was a scene before that where the kids saw that they had a strong feeling that he was in control of them and that he wasn't going to let them go. And they were walking what they thought was away from him. And they were talking about how they weren't sure that he would allow them to go. And then all of a sudden he pops around the corner. So there was a sense from the beginning, I think, with these peers that this kid is not normal. He's very different. And what I liked about this, and it's a very British kind of thing, I think. They were his mates, and they could tell him that he was being a jerk. And even though he still went off the metaphysical end of being the son of Satan, he was listening to them in a way I think if he didn't have that kind of a close friendship with them, he wouldn't have. And the other child so this is a switched at birth story, basically, and another child who was supposed to be the son of Satan is the actual son of an American diplomat.
Which is the Omen thing.
Yes, and so that other child, in order to shape and mold him and to do their deed for heaven and hell, Crowley and Aziraphale go and participate in molding this child for a number of years, mentoring and teaching him. One of them trying to sell him on being evil and killing everyone, crushing these people under your boot. And one, look at the slug. He's so lovely. We're a part of the global world of Kumbaya. And so this effort goes into this other child. And I really loved the story because that doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't end up being the thing that matters. The thing I think that matters is the relationship between the kids and the relationship between an adopted kid and his parents. Because in the end, the closeness of friendship.
So we're just apologising. What you can hear there is the sound of a Kelpie making himself comfortable, and we're just going to keep talking, Tricia.
Sorry, I'm just very distracted.
Very distracting.
So
he's comfortable now. It's all good.
It's about mates and relationships. The parents of the son of Satan have a great impact on who he has become. And his friends. And I think maybe lots of people would run. But I think that because these kids were so close and because there was a strong relationship, they didn't. And I think that that's also why that the son of Satan ended up not destroying the world. Yeah,
it's really interesting hearing you give that perspective on it because I read it roughly the same time. I think I was between 18 and 20. I couldn't tell you. And I'd read pretty voraciously everything Terry Pratchett had written around that point, and then there was this other book with this other dude's name on it. And for a, let's say, 18-year-old, the ideas in it were extremely exciting and new. I would say, I mean, part of my problem watching this is this was written essentially almost closer to P.G. Wodehouse's Jeeves books than to the modern day. Okay, we're maybe 10 years closer to it, but 30 years ago is getting to be a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I struggled with the reliance on flashbacks. Now, this show is by no means alone in relying on flashbacks, but even there were flashbacks that had flashbacks.
Yes.
Yeah, that had other flashbacks, and then it would unravel you back to its main narrative point. And I mean, I know Neil Gaiman was deeply involved in the production of the screenplays and the direction of these. So no one can complain it's not what he wanted, and that's probably good because, as we've seen with Game of Thrones, if there's a sliver of daylight between the author and the production team, the fans will just get in there with stupid conspiracies. So it's really great when the author can stay really close to the project, so they can just say, "This is my vision," and if you don't like it, you just didn't like my vision. I don't know. As a fan of the book, it was lovely to see it brought to life. I just would question whether someone coming at it cold in 2019 is totally going to get their way. But it's nice to hear that your children have gotten into it. So that's
one
something.
of their peers who I gave the first 5 of the Discworld series to for them to read because they're a voracious reader in a fantasy and science fiction area. I gave those to her to read and she couldn't get through them. Like, it was just, the language was just too much for her. But
How old?
She's 16.
Okay.
So she's watching now. And she enjoys Shakespeare. So it's not like I think she has a huge challenge in any way. But this may be a pull for her.
I would also say
I think she might go back.
With the Discworld books, it wasn't until Guards that Pratchett actually figured out how to write an ending.
I won't argue that.
Yeah, and then you've also got the problem with Pratchett that I would say the last 3 or 4 novels, which were significantly ghostwritten, and he was really struggling with Alzheimer's, were pretty much only for the true believers.
Yeah.
And even then for the nostalgia of the one joke where you felt the synapses line up and drop the zinger. I look, it's great that there's a tribute to this, but I guess how many stars would you give this?
I would say 4.
4?
Yeah, I would say 4.
Okay. I would say 4 for a fan of the book, and probably it's a 3 for someone who's going to come at it cold. Yeah. Probably this isn't a reason to take out Amazon Prime if you haven't read the book. Yeah. But we've talked about this before. Jeff Bezos is obviously just buying properties for Amazon Prime where he likes the book. He's fundamentally a bookseller, just the richest one that ever lived. But
well, I'm quite hopeful that other Pratchett will make it into series. As I was grateful it was 6 and not 12 episodes or 8.
I thought the length was about
right.
And
I hope that other books can come to this kind of lovely production.
Have you watched the BBC's Pratchett adaptations?
I have.
And what do you think of those?
Yeah,
Okay.
Not as good as this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this was way more colourful.
Yeah.
And lots of money thrown out. And I think as well, a lot of actors involved just because they didn't want to miss out. And I had a lot of fun showing up the scenery. Cool. All right, we're just going to take a break and we're back. So what's next?
I'm hesitant to say because I'm going to ruin a lot of people's night or day, but Black Mirror Season 5.
Family life? It's boring.
Lonely feeling.
So here she is again.
What is it? Is it me?
Lonely feeling.
I don't have many friends.
Rachel, you look incredible.
You've got 20,000 fans out there.
Look, I think the Black Mirror diehard fans already know. They already know that Black Mirror has dropped a stinker of a season.
It is
in which
really
the
bad.
very best thing is Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
not something you hear every day.
No. Especially because she's not known for her acting.
I honestly never thought I would say that the best thing about a whole season of Black Mirror is Miley Cyrus, and I would love to get a time machine and take season 5 of Black Mirror back in time 10 years and show Charlton Booker this show, because 10-year-old Charlie would rip this to shreds.
I mean, look, there are episodes in Black Mirror of Days Gone By that...
Well, there were hits and misses.
There's some misses, but this is just 3 misses in a row. And so it's only 3 episodes in this season. And basically what happened was they made the first episode. And then they made Bandersnatch. And they realised we cannot do a whole season. And so they decided to do 2.
Charlie said
more.
Bandersnatch ate up what was five episodes of effort.
Which is fine, but this is 3 episodes and the formula is exactly the same. It's like character build-up, dramatic build-up, twist at the end the show. But they're all they go for longer than an hour, these episodes.
Yeah, well, an hour and 10 minutes. But they're way too long. They could tell all of these stories in 20 minutes. And it used to be that a Black Mirror was the length it had to be.
Actually, that's one of the things I loved about it, is that it was interesting. Each was standalone.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to become invested. And you would probably look for 20 or 30 minutes. So I'm really shocked to hear it's quite this bad.
Yeah.
I honestly wonder if there was some horrific negotiations surrounding their Netflix contract where Netflix said, we don't care if you did Bandersnatch, we need a season. The minimum thing that makes a season is 3 episodes. And I was intrigued to see Charlie Brooker put his name as the sole writer on all 3. I think he was taking a bullet for the team with that. I think he was saying, I know it's not up to the normal standards, and if I let someone else put their name on as a writer, they're going to get crucified.
There's a lot of big name actors, though. Anthony Mackie, who is Falcon in the Avengers, is in the first one. Really, really good actor. I think he's a great actor in everything I've ever seen him in.
There's nothing wrong with the acting and the productions.
And he's actually great in it.
The stories
are so boring.
Yeah.
Andrew Scott is in the second one, so he was the priest in Fleabag season 2.
And again, there's nothing wrong with his performance. It's just a really dull story told dully.
So for me, I'm almost bordering on this one being the best one. So it's basically a routine kind of formulaic hostage drama.
Yeah. But the technology twist, I was playing on my phone.
Don't. You can't do that. It's got a really, really rubbish twist. But I've read one reviewer say it's like getting a lecture from your mum at the dinner table. Yeah. That was what that twist was like.
But also, it was just relying on coincidence piled on top of coincidence piled on top of coincidence. And the thing with Black Mirror was always that it was only really just one leap of faith or leap of imagination you had to make to go with them, and the rest of it was like, oh my god, that could be me. Whereas this is rely on the CEO's on retreat and at the exact time, and so it's because Topher Gray that plays the CEO in... I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very big celebrity, or well-known actor. That was just a rubbish character. He plays this, head of a social media outfit, and he's in a yoga retreat with a top knot, and it's just really sort of cliche and dumb.
I would not want to cast any shade on any of the actors involved in this or the production crews. Everyone's doing their job very well. It's just the stories aren't there, and they're spread out over such length. Not the sharp 20 minutes to deliver a thing, but let's explore their middle years between college and have marriage for no particular...
I think, to me, Black Mirror is at its best when it's really, really dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like that episode where the kid is jerking off in front of the computer and it comes out that he's jerking off to other young kids. That was just, crazy.
Yeah, that one was crazy dark from start to finish. Yeah.
And, the one where they're...
in some ways...
Yeah, White Bear, and, those... And, the one... I should know all their names. But anyway, I think when they're really, really dark and really shocking, that is... that when it's at its best.
Yeah.
I also like the social commentary. Black Museum was great. I feel like those kinds of issues being brought forward in...
But that was super dark as well.
Yeah, it was. But still important.
A lot of people don't like Black Museum. I quite enjoyed it, but that one is not universally
I won't
loved.
say but I will
Yeah,
say I felt there was something they were trying to say there.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is just Bandersnatch bleeding over into this season, and the length of it and the timing suggests that's what's happened. But boy, they've got a lot to go back into the Hall of Mirrors and redo, don't they?
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, they're watchable. I do think probably the Miley Cyrus one, which is the last one, is the most well-rounded of the lot of them. So basically, Miley Cyrus plays a pop star, which I think is actually a smart choice because she's not an actor, right? So
she's very engaging as Miley Cyrus.
She plays a great pop star.
And with the whole Hannah Montana thing, she's had a lot of practice playing a pop star.
Actually, sorry, you're right. I forgot that she was Hannah Montana, so she is actually...
She just hasn't acted as an adult.
Yeah,
she hasn't been an adult actor.
Sorry, I totally forgot about that, not being the Miley Cyrus fan. So basically she plays this pop star who they create basically like it's a Google Home style robot thing that's like Miley Cyrus's pop star encapsulated, and it goes a bit crazy.
There's a little more to that episode now, but let's not spoil it for everyone.
But I think that was too a little bit more along the lines of the traditional Black Mirror, because it actually was really about the intersection of technology and life, whereas I think the other two was a little bit, although the first one was about basically how to have virtual reality sex with your best friend.
But I'd also say, at least in the third one, there were people who were bad people doing bad things with the available technology. And in the first two, there's no one to dislike.
No, that's true, yeah.
Everyone was, kind of lovely.
Yeah.
Albeit in some outrageous situations. But, the first one didn't even have outrageous situations. It was just about a domestic, basically.
Yeah.
And even then, the couple were never even in real relationship jeopardy. They resolved their issues, to everyone's satisfaction.
I was going to say don't spoil it, but I don't think anyone cares what happens in that first one.
Yeah.
All right, what are you going to give it?
Well, I would also say the first one, they didn't even represent the technology well, and that's something that Black Mirror has always done. They've done things with how the technology could be used that you go, ooh.
Yeah.
Whereas in that one, it was like, oh, it turns out that these virtual reality action games have got a hidden sex mode.
Which seems like...
That is not new.
Well, it seems like no one's actually playing Street Fighter in the game. Everyone would just be having sex.
Yeah.
That was actually the thing.
Yeah. I am going to give this 2 stars.
Yeah,
I think this is an abomination by Black Mirror standards, and I'm really disappointed.
I'm going to give it 2 stars as well, I agree.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we have reached the end. Thank you very much for listening. If you have made it this far, you are a fan and you owe it to us to give us some stars and reviews and ratings and some likes and subscribes. So get on it. Other than that, if you really want to come into the pod, it turns out if you get in touch and say you should do a show, we will invite you in. So,
Yay!
So get on that.
Tricia.
You're welcome. Thanks
Emails
for having
to gmtrpodcast@gmail.com or any of the other social media channels. Thanks very much, folks.
Thanks,
And good night. Thank you, Tricia, for coming in.
Bye.